Hey, Ani, bonsoir, good evening, and welcome to our first meeting for 2024 of the of Council. I want to wish everybody a happy new year. Special welcome to members of the Trout Lake Association who are here in person today. So it's lovely to have live people here. Before, well, no, not as opposed to death. As opposed to Zoom. Nice try, though. Nice try. Before we do start, though, I just want to extend my deepest sympathies to the family of Larry Bouffard. As we know, Larry passed away this week. Yes, and Larry was a councillor for Ward 3 for many years. And so on behalf of council, we extend our deepest sympathies. So I'd like to begin the meeting by acknowledging that we are in the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people in the Robinson-Huron Treaty area and wish to recognize the neighboring community of Dokis First Nation. While we meet today, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands which we call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their culture. From coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this land home. And with this, I need a resolution to adopt the addenda. Bob and Roger? All those in favor? Thank you. Any disclosures of pecuniary interests? Seeing none. Tonight we have two delegations. The first one is Samantha Elliott from BrokerLink, who will speak to us as to why our municipal insurance is skyrocketing once again. And at the end of the day, we have to have a resolution to renew our municipal insurance program for 2024. So I'm turning it over to you, Samantha. Welcome.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I'll first just make sure everyone can hear me okay?
Yes, you're good.
Great. All right. Good evening, Your Worship, members of council and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to present this evening, and Happy New Year. For those of you who I have not had the pleasure of meeting yet, I'll just give you a really brief introduction. My name is Samantha Elliott. I represent BrokerLink Insurance, formerly Rive Insurance. I have specialized in municipal insurance since I got my start in the insurance industry 10 years ago. I was very privileged to be mentored by the late Hector Leving, who, in addition to several decades of work as an insurance professional, also served as Reeve of Callander for 20 years. So I was very lucky to gain a wealth of knowledge about the public sector world in the years that I had working with him. I obtained my honors designation as a Canadian accredited insurance broker in 2021. Most recently, I completed the municipal risk management program through Conestoga College. I plan on working towards my CRM certificate in risk management over the next 1 to 2 years. I work primarily out of our North Bay office, where I have lived full-time. North Bay, not the office. I've lived full-time since I graduated from Nipissing University about 15 years ago now, but I was born and raised in Elliott Lake, so I am a Northern Ontario girl through and through, and my passion lies in working with our communities. Tonight, I am pleased to present the Municipality of French River's 2024 Insurance Renewal Report in partnership with Intact Public Entities. As you are likely all too aware, we do continue to navigate a hard insurance market. The municipal insurance market is, of course, no exception to this. Hard market conditions include strict underwriting guidelines and risk appetites from insurers, less capacity in the marketplace, and increased deductibles and premiums, as we have been seeing over the past few years. Soft market conditions, on the other hand, are obviously characterized by competitive pricing, higher market capacity, lower deductibles, greater risk appetite, and more coverage options. Now, we know that the commercial insurance market is cyclical, but we also know that these market cycles are becoming more prolonged, with the most recent soft market lasting over 10 years. We are seeing some signs of softening in the marketplace now and some new insurance capacity coming into the marketplace. But the long and short of it is insurers are still facing hard market conditions, and this rings especially true for municipalities. The municipality of French Rivers Municipal Insurance Program is comprised of the main package, which we have placed with Intact Public Entities, and that provides cover for your liability, property, our auto fleet, etc. And then we have two separate policies, which we insure outside of that regular program with insurers who specialize in those particular areas of coverage. And those are our VFIS, Volunteer Firefighters Insurance Policy, as well as the cyber insurance policy, which is placed through a specialty market called CFC. Now, I am happy to report that both of those policies have been renewed at the same coverage level as last year at the exact same rate. So there's a 0% increase to either of those policies on this renewal. It's not often I get to report a 0% increase on renewal, so I'm happy to report that. Given the fact that there were no changes to coverage and only there was a 0% increase to premium, I'm just going to speak to the bulk of the program, the Intact program, for the presentation tonight. Now, the 2024 renewal through IPE has been offered at a total annual premium of $256,817. This represents a total increase of 11.56% over the prior term. Sorry, I'm just at a main intersection here, so I'll let the sirens finish going by. So speaking in dollar terms, our total increase on the Intact program over the prior term was $26,604. Upon reviewing the renewal report, page 18 of the report provides a cost analysis, which is just a really nice chart, which breaks down our premium increase by each individual line of coverage. So we can see where our increases are being generated. Upon a review of this year's cost analysis, you will note that a large majority, the bulk of the increase, was generated under the auto policy this term. The auto policy saw an increase of $13,554. So about half of that total increase was under the auto alone. This is due to the addition of 3 units. We added 3 units over the 2023 term. We added a 2022 Ford F550, a 2023 Ford F250, and of course the 2022 Freightliner, the pumper. There was also a rate increase applied, which is reflective of the current loss ratio. Our auto loss ratio is currently sitting at 58.6%. So this has obviously been a factor in the auto premium increasing this term. In addition to the auto increase, the property premium also saw an increase of $5,771. There could be new additions in there, but this is mainly going to be a result of inflationary increases this term. I believe the rate of inflation applied to all building limits was 9% this year. So obviously our total insured values increased by 9%, which has generated an increase in property premium. Finally, the liability portion of the program took a 10% company mandated increase, while all other lines had a very minimal increase. When I say minimal, I mean less than $500 over the last term or no change. So just to summarize, I feel like I just spit a bunch of numbers at you. So just to summarize, the total cost for the complete program, the VFIS was renewed at same as last year, so that's $2,138. The CFC cyber insurance was renewed same as last year, so that's $4,855, sorry. And the IPE municipal insurance package program at $256,817 gives us a total annual premium of $263,810 for 2024. Now, unfortunately, many of the factors that are driving these company mandated rate increases that I've referred to are obviously outside of municipal or government control. These are things like our frequent CAT events, catastrophic weather events, inflation, supply chain shortages, labor chain shortages, poor return on insurer investments, increased claims costs. All of these things are going to have a detrimental effect on the insurance market, obviously. But the absolute most effective way a municipality can control premium increases, obviously, is by implementing a strong risk management program. Fortunately, your insurer, IPE, is a leading MGA that specializes in public entities. I really like to take the opportunity at renewal every year to just encourage you to continue taking advantage of the best-in-class value-added services that your insurer offers as part of your program. Most of these services are offered, if not all of them, are offered at no additional cost. You're already paying the premiums. So it just makes sense to take advantage of these programs. Just to name off a few, they offer, I have a list here, asset valuations, risk inspections, road risk assessments, sidewalk services, driver training, fleet management evaluations, MMS compliance analysis, municipal education and seminars. They will conduct contract reviews for you. They will conduct policy and procedural reviews. You have access, staff and council have access, to the Center of Excellence online resource library, which is just a wealth of great risk management resources. You have claims management best practices framework. IPE offers in-house claims management services, claims history analysis. You have the Guidewire Claim Center claims management program to keep track of statuses of your claims, claims education, and more. These services can be taken advantage of anytime throughout the policy period. So if staff is interested in getting more information or in accessing any of these programs, please let me know. I'd be happy to facilitate with Intact on your behalf. I'd really like to end on that note because as we see premiums go up, there's really not too much we can do about it, but risk management is something that we do have control over, and I like to, I take pride in the fact that I stay on top of trends in municipal litigation and best practices in municipal risk management. So please lean on me anytime you can. I am available at your convenience. That being said, that concludes my presentation. I really did try to keep it short and sweet for you tonight, but I do love to talk, especially about insurance. So please hit me with any comments, questions, concerns. But otherwise, just thank you so much for the opportunity to present. I was really hoping to be there in person tonight in your beautiful council chambers. I just unfortunately was not able to make it work, but I do hope to get there in person very shortly.
Thank you, Samantha. Any members of council have questions? Dean?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Samantha, I noticed that you commented that a lot of our, or maybe most of our increases are due to general insurance costs going up. That is things that are uncontrollable from our point of view. But I'm kind of curious about the auto, where you remarked that ours went up, and it went up considerably because of our own losses. And I wonder if you could just give us a few more details about that, like why our rate for our auto stuff went up more than the rest of our
certainly
our risks that are covered under the general policy. But the auto one is kind of separate. It seems to be predicated on our own losses, and I'm wondering if that's correct.
So there are a number of factors that will go into calculating premium, calculating rate. So while the insurer is going to look at loss ratio, which obviously has been a factor here, they're also going to be looking at the new additions. So those 3 new units were also a large factor in that increase. That $13,000 increase was not generated based on loss history alone. I could likely get a more specific breakdown, dollar amount, how much was generated by those specific units being added versus loss ratio. I don't have it available right now, but I could certainly ask the insurer for that information and pass that on to you.
Thank you, because I was just curious as to whether there was anything we should be doing to try to ameliorate or lower any of those losses in auto stuff. But But I think that what you said would be great. If you can provide any details on that, it would be helpful to us. So thank you.
Certainly, I will do that. I don't see too much on the claims side of things. It's generally, handled by an adjuster and at the insurer's end. But I could ask for more details on the auto claims that we do have on file. And perhaps we could give consideration to setting up future meetings so we could review some of the details of those claims, maybe what happened, and perhaps review some future loss mitigation strategies that could be implemented to just avoid similar losses in the future.
Thank you. That would be excellent.
Certainly.
Any other questions? Comments? Seeing none, before you, there is a resolution to renew the municipal insurance program for the year 2024. Need a mover and a seconder. Lenny and Dave.
It is duly moved and seconded that council approves the municipal insurance program renewal with BrokerLink Inc. for a one-year term period from January 15th, 2024 to January 15th, 2025 in the amount of $263,960 plus PST.
Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. And thank you, Samantha. And we hope to see you soon in French River.
Yes, I will be there as soon as I can make it. Thank you, Your Worship and Council. Happy New Year. Have a great evening.
Have a great day. Next on the agenda is the Hutchison Environmental Sciences Limited Report with regards to the Trout Lake Lakeshore Capacity Assessment. And we have with us Brent Parson, who led the study. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Brent.
Thanks, Mayor. Nice to be here. We've heard it a couple times tonight, but I was hoping to be there tonight as well. And then we got about a foot of snow, and it looked like it was going to be similar from my drive here, the north end of Bracebridge, up past Parry Sound. So I opted to stay here and do this virtually. So my apologies for that, but hopefully this goes well. I emailed a presentation previously, but I think I should be able to just share it from my end. I'm not the most technologically advanced person, but I believe I'll have to have like the rights to do that.
You should be able to share.
Okay, awesome. What am I sharing now?
We don't see anything at this point.
Okay. Still just me. Share screen. There we go.
And we see your report, Brent.
Perfect. Okay. That was pretty painless. Okay. Let me just get this over here. Okay. My name is Brent Parsons, and I'm an owner of Hutchison Environmental Sciences Limited. We are the leading practitioners of the Lakeshore Capacity Assessment in the province. We helped develop the approach with the province and sought out alternative approaches. And we've completed a ton of lake management studies, including ones focused on the development of capacity throughout municipalities across Ontario, whether they were either lake specific, like this study is, or watershed at a larger watershed scale. So this has been the focus of my career over the last 15 years. I was actually exposed to this model in grad school, and then throughout my career so far. So I have about 20 slides to talk about our report and what we did. I think it'll be about 30 minutes long. I can't necessarily, well, I can see you in a small screen on the side, but if anybody has any questions, feel free to speak up and interrupt me, and I'm happy to address them as we go. It can be a bit dense at times, but hopefully I can explain it so that everybody can understand the process. So I guess just to back up, we were approached to complete this project. I believe it was about a year ago, and we developed a scope of work and followed through with that scope of work and submitted the report in December of 2023. So in that report and in the presentation tonight, I'll describe what we did. So Trout Lake is a special policy area in the draft official plan. Part of that is due to the fact that it is a natural lake trout lake. So we were retained to complete a lakeshore capacity assessment to help determine development thresholds. We looked at various lines of evidence because there are some limitations associated with the lakeshore capacity model. So I like to take a more holistic view of things, especially if there's monitoring data available to look at. So through these multiple lines of evidence, we looked at one, phosphorus. Phosphorus is generally the limiting nutrient for the growth of plants and algae in lakes. So it's of paramount importance for people that live on these lakes, recreational users, and as lake managers, we often focus on it. So we looked at phosphorus both through monitoring data, but also through this lakeshore capacity model and associated water quality guidelines. We looked at oxygen, specifically for Trout Lake. As its name implies, it supports a lake trout population. And at the bottom of these lakes, the amount of oxygen that's in it is an important factor in the quality of habitat for lake trout. And there's a criterion in the province to say that lake trout require 7 milligrams per liter of oxygen in the deep part of the lake. So that criterion is enforced by the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry. It's often considered during the development of development capacities. And there's some models that we can use that link phosphorus with oxygen. And the linkage there is that phosphorus causes increased growth of plants and algae. As they grow and they eventually die off, as they decompose in the bottom of the lakes, that it sucks the oxygen up out of the bottom of the lakes. So that's the linkage we have to try to avoid. We also looked at recreational density, and that's based on a criterion in the Township of Seguin official plan that's been successfully used at the Ontario board level in the past. And that's just to make sure that lakes don't get too crowded. And then we also looked at water quality trends. So we looked at data over time that was collected through the Lake Partner Program and analyzed at the Dorset Environmental Science Center. So again, we looked at all these multiple lines of evidence to both determine the health of the lake, how's Trout Lake doing, and inform if more development should be allowed on the lake or not. So I have a few slides here just to describe the methodology and background. The first slide is just a map to show you Trout Lake, to show you the watershed of it. And we also have Edith Lake and the watershed on the map as well. And that's included because it flows into Trout Lake. So it was included in the lakeshore capacity model. The most important thing on the map is just to show you that the data sampling or the water quality sampling locations. So the ones we focused on were background information collected from those yellow dots. And that, again, that was collected by volunteers as part of the Lake Partner Program. So we looked at those data. Those data included Secchi disk depth, which is a measure of water transparency. We looked at total phosphorus, again, that limiting nutrient that's ever important. And we also looked at calcium and chloride. And those are a bit more complicated parameters in terms of lake health, but chloride is becoming more important because it can often show us impacts from road salt. And there's a linkage there where if calcium gets too low in the lake due to oftentimes acid rain that's occurred over the years, if calcium gets low and chloride gets high, there's concern that that impacts the zooplankton, which is in the food web, that's the level above. They're little critters that eat the algae in the lake. So we need those to be the zooplankton to be functioning properly for optimal lake health. So those were the parameters that were collected at the yellow dots. And then the blue triangles, those were the water quality sampling locations that we used in late summer, early fall. I think it was September 6th, 2023. So here's a quick synopsis of our trend analysis. And again, this was based on historical data collected from the Lake Partner Program. This is a really great program that is administered by the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, but it relies on volunteers to sample based on sampling kits that are provided and then samples that are shipped to the Dorset Environmental Science Center, where they have a great lab set up, and we end up with some really reliable data, which really helps with lake management across the province. So again, that provides long-term monitoring of phosphorus and water clarity, or water transparency, which is the Secchi disk depth. And we found that there was a sufficient length of record for trend analysis at 4 sites, and those were the sites that were shown on the last slide. There wasn't quite enough data yet to look at a trend analysis for calcium and chloride. You need a certain amount of time, oftentimes 5 plus 10 years to look at to see if there's an actual trend. So this table just shows the period of record of those parameters that were measured. ZSD is Secchi disk depth, and we have a total phosphorus, calcium, and chloride, and then that shows the sampling locations below that and the period of record that the data were available. So again, HESL, that's us, Hutchinson Environmental Sciences Limited. We sampled 6 sites on September 6th, 2023. And we sampled at that time of the year because the province has identified August 15th to September 15th as the appropriate time of year to collect dissolved oxygen concentrations to best characterize lake trout habitat. And that's because, I'm not sure if everybody's aware, but most of our lakes, they're called dimictic. They turn over twice in a year, where the temperature gradient gets so different where the whole lake turns over, and that happens in the spring. And then the lake will slowly thermally stratify throughout the summer, and then it'll turn over in the late fall, or in the early fall, depending on the lake. But by August 15th to September 15th, I think it's probably best to collect these data from September 1st to September 15th. Generally speaking, the oxygen in the bottom of the lake is pretty low, and that provides you a conservative time to assess lake trout habitat. So as part of that sampling event, again, we collected information on water clarity, the Secchi disk depth. We collected samples and analyzed them for a whole bunch of parameters. As you can see there, alkalinity, suspended solids, ammonia, so different nutrients. Dissolved organic carbon is important because sometimes nutrients can be high, but it's because dissolved organic carbon is actually high. Chlorophyll A is an important one. It gives you an indication of algae abundance. Anyways, a whole bunch of parameters there that just help to identify what the lake health is and provide some characteristics on the lake. And then we also have a water quality meter, and it collects information on temperature, oxygen, conductivity, pH. Then we have a separate one that collects data on chlorophyll A. And so at each of those sites, we collected those data at 1 meter intervals all the way to the bottom of the lake. And that information was most importantly used, again, to characterize this lake trout habitat. And the important thing there is the lake trout habitat above? Is it well oxygenated? Is it above 7 milligrams per liter, or is it below? So that's what we use that data for. So for the oxygen modeling, again, the provincial criteria is 7. So the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry says if your oxygen in the bottom water of the lake is below 7, then there shouldn't be any more development. And that's because there's a linkage again between people's septics and stormwater, and there's some phosphorus associated with both of those loads that go to a lake, and then that can increase algae and plant growth. And then the thinking goes that the decomposition of the algae and plants will lower the oxygen to a point that the lake trout will really struggle. So we measured that, and we also did a bit of modeling to predict, well, if you change this much development and phosphorus increase this much, what's the change in oxygen? Again, because of that linkage, more phosphorus results in lower oxygen. So when we looked at the phosphorus, we looked at that through the lakeshore capacity model. So this model, it's called a mass balance model. So what we do is we estimate different phosphorus loads from the watershed, from the lake itself. So things like runoff from the watershed, or rainfall, or septic systems, and then we have all these loads that go into a spreadsheet based model. There's different coefficients and stuff in there. And then it spits out a concentration of phosphorus. So then we take that concentration for phosphorus. So say it's 10. So it predicts a phosphorus concentration of 10 for a lake. Well, then we go look at our measured data and we say, is our measured data close to 10? And if it is, then we can use the model. And Ministry of Environment says it has to be within 20%. The predicted value has to be within 20% of the modeled value to say, okay, we can use this model to say there should be this many residences on the lake. The way you go about figuring out how many residences there can be, if the model works, is, well, first you actually predict the phosphorus concentration in the lake before anybody even lived there, before there were septic systems. So you take that load out of the model, and that gives you a pre-development concentration in the lake. And then the Ministry of Environment says you can add 50% to that. And that's how far we can move the phosphorus up in terms of development. So there's other components of the model. So when we get all these loads and we get the septic load, that's all the lots within 300 meters of the shore or inflowing tributaries. And we estimated that for Edith Lake based on satellite imagery, and we collected data from MPAC through the municipality on the amount and type of development on Trout Lake. And for different types of development, whether it's like a permanent residence or a seasonal residence or extended seasonal residence, there's varying amounts of a phosphorus load that's attributed to the lake that in the model. Obviously, if people are there more, there's more wastewater generated, then the load is a little bit higher. So one of the big challenges with a lakeshore capacity model is that it was initially assumed that all the phosphorus from a septic system within 300 meters of a water body goes to that water body. And so that was kind of the primary assumption of the model that it was built upon, quite a long time ago. I think it's in the 80s now. My graduate school supervisor actually developed it, Peter Dillon, and that was kind of the understanding then. But since that time, there's been a lot of research done, and it's been determined that, well, actually a lot of that phosphorus gets attenuated in soils. How much gets attenuated is, well, it's dependent on the system that people have in place, and it depends on the type of soil that's there, because soils, especially Precambrian shield soils that are high in iron and aluminum and low in calcium carbonate, they do a really good job of it. They hold the phosphorus irreversibly through mineralization. So, and there's even some, literature out there, peer-reviewed literature that shows that the attenuation can be 97%. And Robertson et al. There, that study was looking at 30 different systems across the province with various ages. So that's a challenge, because if we take that into account in the model, which we can, there's a retention coefficient, so we can say this much from the septics is actually going to the lake, so that's what we're going to put in the model. So we could say 100% goes, or 0% goes, or any number in between. But if we go too high with that, if we say 97% or 99%, then we lose some of the conservatism of the model. So we're kind of left in a spot. Again, I do this every day, and I've explored for the province how people do it across North America, and I'm always trying to find the balance that is based on science, is protective of lakes, but also provides a balanced perspective in terms of the impacts of development. So that's why I look at more than just the lakeshore capacity model. That's why I always love to dig into the monitoring data, because that tells us what's actually going on with the lake. And I try to do a more holistic assessment through that lens. So in this study, we said 80% of the phosphorus from the septics are retained. If we did what the Ministry of Environment says, and we said 0% is retained in the soil, well, then the model just doesn't work at all. It wasn't very close. But at 80%, we found, well, that's still probably lower than what is actually happening. But it's still pretty conservative, and it gives a good fit between the modeled and observed phosphorus. And again, we know that the soils in the Trout Lake watershed are pretty conducive for this attenuation. And the lake has really low calcium concentration, indicating that the watershed has low calcium carbonate concentrations as well. So that's explained in detail in the report. So when we see if this lakeshore capacity model works, again, we compare the predicted modeled concentration. In this case, it was 8.16 micrograms per liter, so that's parts per billion. And we compare that to the measured phosphorus concentration. And that measured phosphorus data, that was again collected through the Lake Partner Program over the last decade. And that value was 7.29 milligrams per liter. So error was 12%, which again is below the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks acceptable threshold of 20. So the model's pretty good. It predicts measured concentrations accurately, so we can use it to determine development capacity. I mentioned recreational capacity previously. So the way we calculated that is, again, the way it's been completed for the township of Seguin. And it's just another line of evidence based on social density and crowding to give us a bit more of a holistic assessment of development capacity, determining development capacity. So the way we calculate that is we take the offshore area of the lake, which is greater than 30 meters away from the lake. We say, what's that surface area? And then we say, okay, there can be one residential unit per 1.6 hectares of that lake surface area. It's pretty simple. Or a tourist accommodation unit of 0.8. So it's a really simple metric. I mean, I wouldn't base everything on this, but again, I like to look at multiple lines of evidence so that we know we're looking at everything and we're making a really well-informed decision. All right, on to the results. So water quality is good. There are low nutrients. It seemed like the phytoplankton or the algae concentrations were pretty low, and so was chloride. But we did note some increasing trends. Total phosphorus is increasing about 3% per year based on the data set we had. And secundus depth is decreasing. And this is unusual, to be honest. We don't see this very often. I don't know if it's a huge cause for concern at this point, because the phosphorus concentrations are still low, but it's definitely worth noting and should be investigated further, because we don't have the data to say, why is this phosphorus concentration increasing? Is it from organic carbon? So maybe we have more flushing of wetlands that are putting tea-stained water into the lake, and that tea-stained water is high in phosphorus, but that's maybe it's just a natural phenomenon, or maybe it's not. Maybe there's something going on in the lake where there is septic effluent or stormwater or something going into the lake, and it's causing this phosphorus to increase over time. So the fact that phosphorus is increasing and Secchi disc depth is decreasing is a concern as well, but it's a bit more subjective. I mean, the way you do that one is you see how far the disc goes into the water before it disappears, and then you pull it up until you can see it. So it's not quite as quantifiable, but again, it's something worth noting. When we looked at dissolved oxygen, we saw that the lake was really strongly stratified. So the top layer that was warmer was really strongly stratified from the bottom layer. And you can see that on the profiles on the right. So on all those profiles at the y-axis shows the depth. TL1, TL2, those are the different sites we used. And then dissolved oxygen concentration is measured along the x-axis at the top, and temperatures along the one at the bottom. And so the blue dots are oxygen and the green are temperature. So you can see at the top of the lake, at TL1, you can see from the temperature was about 22 degrees at 1 meter, and then it slowly goes down, and then it's quite cold at about 9 meters of depth, and it stays at about 7-8 degrees the deeper you go. So anyways, that's what the temperature is showing with the green dots, and then the oxygen is showing the concentration of that as well throughout the water column. So what's most notable there is that we never measured deep water oxygen above 7 milligrams per liter. It was always below. And again, that's that threshold we need to worry about. So when we calculate it, we add up all these measurements in the bottom, and then we average it out, and we come up with that really terrible acronym on there, MVWHDO, mean volume weighted hypolymnetic dissolved oxygen. It's about as complicated sounding as you can get. But again, what you need to know is if that's below 7, then there's potential that there's an issue with lake trout habitat. The province says you shouldn't have any more development. So based on the phosphorus, again, so that's what we measured. And then based on the phosphorus, we can model the oxygen as well. And so we found even in background conditions, a phosphorus at 7.07, oxygen was still below 7 milligrams per liter, 6.87. So now that oxygen's a little bit higher, we model it to be 6.81. And if you were to ever drive it up to the provincial water quality objective, it would decline to 5.7. So we're over, well, we have some issues with the lake trout habitat in terms of oxygen, and we have this increasing trend in phosphorus. So those were two of the main takeaways from the results so far. When we look at the lakeshore capacity model, again, another line of evidence, we found that the background plus 50, this water quality guideline, is 10.6, which is quite a bit higher than the modeled concentration that we have right now. So that shows that there's lots of development capacity, that we could increase it by 427 kilograms per year. And that, equates to a development capacity of 248 residences or 493 extended seasonal residences. So if you were to just look at the lakeshore capacity model, you'd say there's development capacity, there's a whole bunch. Again, whereas with the oxygen, you say there's not. And with the trend in phosphorus, that would give you a cause for concern as well. There was also capacity if you looked at it through the recreational capacity lens. So the lake area is 857 hectares. Again, that offshore area, 30 meters from shore, is 640. And then we counted the existing residences and tourist accommodations, and there's an aerial use for those. And then you're left with 199 hectares of unused area. So there's recreational capacity for 124 additional units for that metric. So in summary, in terms of the water quality characterization, we looked at, and there's a lot more detail in the report if anybody's interested, but we looked at comparing the water quality data to different water quality guidelines, and we didn't find that there were any exceedances there. So, if you were to use that as an indication of development capacity, you'd say, well, the lake water quality is fine. There's capacity available. But that indicates that there's capacity available. But if you looked at water quality trends, there's increasing trends in total phosphorus and calcium, and decreasing trend in clarity. And then when we look at our more specific lake capacity tools that are used to determine not only if there should be capacity, but how many lots there should be, we found that, well, the Lakeshore Capacity Model, the LCM, and the recreational density measurement, they both say, yeah, that there's capacity available with varying amounts of residences recommended. But if we look at the oxygen and that mean volume weighted oxygen, that's that lake trout habitat in the bottom, it's below 7. So from the provincial perspective, there isn't capacity available. So we had a number of recommendations. The first was that we did not recommend new development at this time because of those findings. Vacant lots of record are okay. And if they're developed, they should be developed following best management practices. And then we also recommended some water quality monitoring program improvements. The Lake Partner program's great, but with those increasing trends, it'd be nice to know a little bit more about what's going on in the lake. So it'd be, we'd recommend that it be supplemented, that water quality monitoring, with measurements of dissolved organic carbon, orthophosphate, which is the reactive portion of phosphorus, and total suspended solids, to try to figure out what's causing this increase in total phosphorus. We also think there should be some more late summer dissolved oxygen and temperature profiling, because there wasn't too much data available on that beyond the measurements that we took, and oftentimes that can change year to year. So it's nice to have a few measurements that you can rely on to determine management recommendations. And we said that, you know, should probably look at that again in 5 years after some of those data have been collected. So that's it for me.
That's
Thanks
great.
a lot for listening.
Thank you, Brent. Quite extensive, very scientific.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. That's your job. That's the way it's supposed to be. Now, I know that for tonight, it was there was supposed to be a resolution to receive and endorse the report, but I'm going to suggest that we defer it to February 7th so that it gives time for council to digest all the information that we received tonight, and as well respect to the Trout Lake Association. I know that there will be a meeting set up with our staff and with Brent, so that I know you probably have lots of follow-up questions to ask. So if you have questions of Brent right now, feel free, council, to ask him. If not, you can always prepare your questions and we can have them sent out, and Brent will be made available. Okay. Is that okay? So with that, I'd like to propose a resolution that we defer the receiving and endorsing the report recommendations. Oh, I don't need the resolution, so I just need to defer. Okay. Everybody's in agreement. I don't have. Okay, so we'll defer. There we go. Oh, we just don't table it. Then we don't need to vote on it. There we go. All righty. Okay. So we'll move on. Oh, yes, of course. So Brent, thank you very much. I know you spent quite a bit of time working on this report, and we certainly appreciate all the time that you did that for us, and look forward to hearing from you again within the next 2 weeks.
Thanks a lot for having me.
You're welcome. You take care.
Take care.
All right. So next is my annual year in review report. So sit down, make yourself comfortable, because it's going to be a little while, as you know. So for those, you can stay for the review, because you'll find out what's happened throughout the whole year, or you don't have to stay. So lock the doors. Yeah. Don't start the car. All right. So the year 2023 was an extremely busy one that saw the municipality tackle many issues, some more pleasant than others. Our two new councillors now have a year under their belt, and I'm sure it's been interesting and an eye-opener for them. As for the rest of us on council, there isn't a day, a week, or even a month that goes by that we don't learn something new. Even Dean, with his magnificent institutional memory, I've heard him say on a few occasions, I didn't know that. In the past, I always recognize staff at the end of my presentation, but this year I would like to start by acknowledging and thanking them for all the hard work they do and for the continued support of this council. Whether staff works in public works, environmental services, parks and recreation, fire department, finance, bylaws, building and services, library, or the administration, we know we can count on them to deliver outstanding services to our residents, and for this, council is extremely grateful. Each year, I refer to them as the gems of French River, and that they are. So from all of us, a sincere thank you. January 2023 started off uneventful until I was advised that our OPP station was set to close in June. At a CPAC meeting held in the previous November, we were assured by the OPP administration that there were no plans to close our detachment in the immediate future. I thought this was a rumor or a misunderstanding, as the OPP administrator stated that nothing would happen until such time as SEMA was fully consulted, as it would affect all 4 municipalities. However, I found out I was wrong, and indeed, it was set to close last June, with our officers being transferred to either Sudbury or Sturgeon Falls. This was the beginning of an extensive campaign that started with a petition led by our MPP Frangilina, which garnered thousands of signatures and several presentations to the provincial legislature. A letter campaign was spearheaded by the Sudbury East Chamber of Commerce. Businesses wrote about the negative impact this closure would have on their businesses. As well, individuals wrote passionately about their experiences with our officers and the service they provide for our community. These letters were not only sent to the OPP commissioner and his deputy commissioners, but also to the premier and the Solicitor General and a litany of other people. The intensive media coverage was amazing. This prompted a meeting with the OPP regional commander and the superintendent. However, that meeting proved to be quite useless. We had just found out we were granted a meeting with the Solicitor General, and I advised them both individuals, that we were having such a meeting. In April, we met with the Solicitor General. We stated our case and made it clear that there had been no discussions with the municipality and that we had not been afforded an opportunity to propose solutions or to make a case to keep our OPP station in Wellville. The minister was very open to our suggestions and took all the documents we had prepared for him. He reassured us that he would be speaking with the commissioner and that someone would be in touch with us shortly. True to his word, within 3 days, we received a call from the regional commander requesting a meeting. It was at that meeting that we were advised that the OPP station closure was put on a cautionary hold until such time as we could find a solution that meets the needs of our communities and the OPP. Since then, the municipality has had numerous meetings with Infrastructure Ontario and the OPP facility staff to hammer out an agreement. We are at a very critical stage now, and I'm hopeful that we will have some good news within the next few months. I can tell you that without the outstanding community support, our OPP detachment would be closed now. For this reason, we are indebted to our community. Also in January, Council approved a 4-day workweek program for our staff. This pilot project that began in 2022 to thank our staff for all their hard work during the pandemic. Offering a 3-day weekend every week gave staff a chance to spend more time with their families and for them to get some well-deserved rest. This project also received intensive media coverage, not only provincially, but nationally. I call it the never-ending story. Back in October 2022, our CAO, our Economic Development Officer, and I went to North Bay to meet with the DESCON team regarding the possibility of developing an affordable seniors complex in French River. The presentation was quite impressive, especially the part where the municipality would not have to pay for any feasibility studies, consultations, and the development of such a project. We all know that this has been attempted by a few groups in the past, but unfortunately, it never came through. The issue was brought to council, and shortly thereafter, staff sent out an expression of interest for the development of a seniors affordable housing project. In June, the DESCON team made a presentation to council, and I must say this project created much excitement in our community. DESCON did a feasibility study to see if such a project could become a reality. They did this through a survey and meetings with numerous stakeholders. It soon became apparent that there's a great need for this type of housing. In December, council gave the go-ahead to move to the next step, which is the creation of a non-for-profit board, securing the finances, and much more. This 30-unit affordable seniors housing will enable our seniors to stay in the community that they love. These are really exciting times for the municipality. 2023 was an extremely busy year for our bylaw department and our clerk, with the introduction of many new bylaws and finally the implementation of the trailer bylaw. These new bylaws will be governed by our new administrative monetary penalty systems, also known as AMPS. The system makes it easier for the municipality to collect fines, as well as offer an appeal process for those who feel their fines are not justified. By far, the most detailed and difficult bylaw that was introduced was the short-term rentals. During the pandemic, the value of homes, especially those on the river and lakes, skyrocketed, and numerous residents sold their homes. Many of these homes were turned into Airbnbs, Verbos, or just plain short-term rentals. Council members began receiving many complaints, and though we have some bylaws to address certain complaints, it wasn't enough. Back in February 2022, a report regarding short-term rentals came to council, and it was at that time that council directed staff to develop a bylaw. Much research and consultation took place in 2023, and after 4 drafts, our bylaw was passed. As I stated in November, I'm extremely proud of this bylaw because it sets the parameters and limits for those wishing to rent their properties. There are many regulations that protect the renters, the owners, the neighbors, and our environment. It is progressive, detailed, and a positive bylaw for our municipality. I know this will bring more work to our staff, but I believe that this is being addressed through the budget process that's coming up shortly. Again, superb work by our staff. As a member of council, I must reiterate how proud I am of both the short-term rentals and the trailer bylaws. There were many community activities during 2023 with the annual family hockey and baseball tournaments that brought in thousands of people in our municipality. Our environmental committee organized an Earth Day presentation. They had the privilege of presenting it to the Monetteville Public School students and made it available to anyone interested in Earth Day presentations. As well, each student in our municipality received a tree seedling so that they could take home and plant. Our library once again offered programming for young and older folks, whether it was March break or summer activities, crafts of all kinds, movies, storytelling, book clubs, puppet making, and every holiday in the calendar. There was always something to do at the library. Everyone should visit their library every so often so that you can be as amazed as I am to see what is being offered. In June, we once again celebrated Seniors Month with activities including a lunch. All our first responders and members of council and staff participated by serving lunch to our seniors, much to their delight, and then we had to clean up. During the cleanup, our firefighters were called out. I've never seen anyone take off so quickly. Minutes later, they were followed by our paramedics and our OPP officers and left council and staff to finish cleaning up. It was pretty something to see. The Joe Chapdelaine Park finally had a new playground, had the new playground equipment installed, much to the enjoyment of everyone. It's wonderful to see people using the park as it was intended. The park also offered an avenue for various activities. Once again, the municipality hosted concert in the park, and we also saw a great gathering at the Rendezvous with our Métis community. The major event called Helping Hands fundraiser, sponsored by Chapdelaine Lumber, was again a success. The park was buzzing with activities for people of all ages. Thanks to Chapdelaine Lumber and all their volunteers, they were able to raise over $17,000. These funds are going towards the building of a well and washroom facilities for the park. This year's Helping Hands will be held August 24th, and I can't wait. In December, we closed out the year by honoring our volunteers during our volunteer appreciation evening. Well over 130 people attended, and it was my pleasure to honor the many years of service by our volunteer firefighters. We even hit a milestone with Captain Tom Benvenuti reaching 50 years of service. It was also an opportunity to have a sneak peek at the renovation of our ACC. All those in attendance were awed with the transformation. Though there had been a 2-year delay because of COVID, the wait was well worth it. Groups and individuals are now anxiously waiting for the go-ahead to book their activities. Our budget presentation in December, it was also interesting to hear about the many projects that were completed aside from the ones I've mentioned tonight. And I believe it's worth going over, especially for our residents. They included the purchasing of a new tanker truck for our fire department. The old one failed to meet the Ontario fire regulations, but it will be made to good use and serve as a watering truck for our roads. We also replaced our 3/4 ton truck, and now all our vehicles have GPS tracking systems in place. This is great, especially when we get calls from residents asking when their roads will be plowed, graded, or watered. The municipality had received a grant to create 5 murals that depict the heritage of our municipality, and they now have all been completed. They are magnificent. As we continue with the beautification, and folks still speak how beautiful the flower pots are, and they wish more could be hung. Picnic tables and Muskoka chairs were installed in the Wally-Lamondin Park, thanks to the Canada Foundation, and there's more to come in 2024. Though the food bank is a separate entity, the municipality plays a huge role in its existence. This year, we saw record numbers of clients accessing the food bank. Through no fault of their own, these clients face outrageous costs in food, heat, hydro, and an inadequate minimum wage or pension. The food bank plays an integral part in making sure no child goes to school hungry. Though in September, the food bank lost over $45,000 in funding, the United Way stepped in with a grant of $20,000. As well, thanks to one of our seasonal residents and our fire department, we were able to get over 4,000 pounds of food thanks to Canada Medic. This goes a long way in filling the bellies of those in need. We also began our visioning process, our strategic plan, with many successful consultations, and we patiently await the final report of the consultants. Tonight, we received a long-awaited Trout Lake capacity study, which contains many recommendations that will be coming back to council in February. The biggest challenge in 2023, and continues to be a challenge, is waste management. For years, not just this council, but previous councils have discussed the problem with our current bin system, our landfill capacity, and where do we go from here. Last year, we began a pilot project with limited number of households for curbside recycling. The main driver for this project was that the government is imposing a 5% or less contamination rate. Our municipality was experiencing anywhere between 40% to 80% contamination rate, and there was no way of controlling this rate with our current bin system. The pilot project was extremely successful as it achieved a less than 5% contamination rate. In June, this system was implemented throughout the municipality. Though there was and still is some resistance, the contamination rate is holding close to 0%. Staff is still dealing with a few challenges, but overall, it's been a success. Now, this brings me to household waste management. In early spring, Council was advised that our current system was facing serious challenges because of the unreliability of our current garbage trucks and the deterioration of our bins. I guess this was the reality check that forced Council to start making some very difficult decisions. Before going into details, I want to note that staff has made remarkable inroads in improving the Noelville and Albin transfer sites. Since changing and gating the Noelville transfer site, the improvements have been second to none. As for the Albin site, the change has also been remarkable. I believe monitoring and enforcement by our bylaw officers has gone a long way in cleaning up the transfer sites. However, there are still some entitled, permanent, and seasonal residents who think it's okay to dump anything and everything at the sites, and that is unacceptable. Over a year ago, Council, through a detailed resolution, directed staff to investigate and report back to Council the cost of the current bin system, the cost of a modified bin system, household curbside pickup, and the opening of the landfill to 6 days a week. This was and still is a huge task for our staff. And though the resolution had stated it wanted the report to be completed by May 2023 to accommodate our seasonal residents, life happens, and the report was released in the fall. Much discussion on whether we keep a modified bin system or go to curbside pickup has brought forward a lot of passion from both sides. Each member of Council has been proactive in putting their position forward through discussions. At the end of the day, and coming very shortly, there will be a decision made based on what members of Council feel is the best solution for our very distinct municipality. The end of 2023 brought many challenges for Council to deal with in 2024. After our budget meeting in December and after many years of very low tax increases, our municipality, just like every other municipality in the province, is faced with uncontrollable increases that must be downloaded to our residents as the province continues to cut our funding. These include increases in public health at a whopping 12%, DSAB at 3.9%, MPAC at 1.2%, and even our own municipal insurance at almost 1%. This represents approximately $72,000 or the equivalent of almost 1.4%. All this before we even begin to discuss what is needed to move our municipality forward. So all of us, Council and residents, need to brace ourselves for a difficult 2024. I'm grateful for 2023 for many reasons. First and foremost, I'm grateful for the continued support and expertise we receive from our staff. I'm grateful to Council as they work hard for the well-being of all our residents. And finally, I'm grateful for all the numerous projects we accomplished in 2023 and for those we will complete in 2024. As always, it's an honor and a privilege for me to serve as your mayor, and I look forward to all the amazing things that we will achieve in 2024. Merci, Megwitch. Thank you. So that's
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry if I missed anything. It was a busy year. Oh, thank you. All right, so let's get back to our regular agenda. Under 6.1.1, I need a resolution to appoint a deputy mayor for the year 2024. As we do every year, the deputy mayor's position is up for election. So I am opening up the nominations for the position of deputy mayor. Council Renee? Okay, you'll second it? Okay, thank you. Are there any other nominations for the position of deputy mayor? For the third and last time, are there any further nominations for the position of deputy mayor? Seeing none. Congratulations, Renee. We will
Yes.
continue to work
Thank you.
together. All right. Then we'll go to 6.1.2, resolution to amend the employees policy manual bylaw. As you know, there have been some changes as a result of negotiations and so now it has to go into the manual through a bylaw. So I need a mover and a seconder. Willie and Roger. Did anybody have any questions with regards to the changes? It's pretty clear. All those in favor? Thank you. Sorry, I forgot to ask you to read it. It's okay. Let's go to 6.1.3, resolution to approve the attendees at conferences being held. So you have a list of conferences. Maybe Madam Clerk, you can read what you have so far, and then the councillors can let you know.
Yes, thank you. So for Aroma Conference, that is actually next week, so I haven't had any interest for that one. For Good Roads, I have Roger, Giselle, and Dave. Good
Yeah.
Roads, okay. So Roger, Giselle, Dave, and Bob. So that one is being held April 21st to 24th at the Toronto Fairmont Royal York. The next one is the FUNEM conference, which is being held in Sudbury this year at the Holiday Inn from May 6th to the 8th.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment because it's being held in Sudbury. I would encourage members of council to go because there's no hotel expensive. We can carpool and go into to Sudbury for the actual conference. So
Register?
yeah, we have to register. So
Yes.
well, you can have that one. I think I would say is a freebie. Yeah. Okay. So Dave and Dean will come.
Okay. So I had Willie, Renee, and Giselle. So Dave and Dean.
Roger, did you want to go to that one too? Yeah, again, it's in Sudbury, so did you want to go, Bob, or that's your start of? Okay. You mean you're gonna take a vacation or you're gonna start working again? Oh. Okay,
So the next one is the AMO conference, which is being held in Ottawa this year at the Shaw Center in Weston, Ottawa, August 18th to the 21st. And at this point, I have Willie, Roger, Giselle, Dave, and Renee.
and again, I don't need any hotel requirements because I'll stay with my son.
And before booking anything, we will confirm with you to make sure, because there's some of these hotels that we don't get any refunds for cancellations. The next one is AFMO, that is being held in Clarence, Rockland, September 26th to the 28th. There's no announcements on the registration accommodations at this point, but we can still take down names of interest.
It's in French.
So at this point, I had Giselle and Renee.
Yeah,
Okay. So that's it at this time.
okay. So I need a resolution to approve the
Yes.
attendance. Okay, so I need a mover and a seconder. Bob and Roger.
Okay, I'm not going to reread everything.
Yeah,
That's fine.
yeah, that's okay. All those in favor? Thank you. Sorry, losing my voice again. Under 6.2, there's no report. 6.3, Public Works and Environmental Services. We have a resolution to adopt to enter into a service amending agreement with Automotive Material Stewardship Incorporated. So that was in your package. I need a mover and a seconder. Sorry, Willie and Dave. Any questions? Everybody okay with that? Right. All those in favor? Thank you. Under 6.4, we have the chair's report for Recreation and Community Advisory Committee. So I'll turn it over to Renee.
So we met in November and with the committee, and we went through numerous things, highlights of the year and things that potentially down the road we would like to work on. And there was a few recommendations that came through the fundraising in the last 2 years. There was an amount, well, last year was 17,000. The year before that, there was 10, so we're up to 27. So we recommended, have a recommendation to direct staff to get potential locations and financials of where the well and the septic would go at Joe Chartrand Park. So we're asking that the staff can, if the staff can start looking at that, so that we can move forward with that project this summer, since those funds were donated by all of everybody who attended and made donations of time and you know, have helped the project move along. So that's, we have a recommendation, and I believe Melanie can read that one. We have two. The second one was the Christmas, the lights in the Christmas trees in Albin and Novel. About 5 years ago, I believe the first year I was on council, council had approved to purchase lights and have the fire department install them. As we've seen this year and last year, the lights are fewer and fewer lit. They're like strangling parts here and there. So perhaps we could look at replacing those lights come, you know, before December. Normally in September is the time to put up the lights. So we have a recommendation for that. And I believe those were the only two recommendations we have for council for 2024, since we know what kind of a year it's going to be.
So you can get a mover and seconder for the first one, and then
And you want to
Okay.
do them separately, one for
Yeah,
the,
yeah,
one for the
yes.
lights?
there's
Okay.
two, yes.
So I need a mover and a seconder for. She's at not my meeting.
No, your meeting's the first one and
The
and the
first
month.
one, it is the first one of the year.
It is, yeah. It's got- Oh, yeah, I see the confusion. You guys are funny. Okay, so I need a mover and a seconder. Willie and Roger.
So it is duly moved and seconded, whereas at their meeting held November 20th, the 2023, the Recreation and Community Advisory Committee discussed the need to replace and or repair the community Christmas lights and have submitted their recommendation for council's consideration. Now therefore be it resolved that council consider a budget of $1,000 towards new Christmas tree lights for the churches in Albin and Novel during the 2024 budget deliberations.
Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. And we have second
Next
one.
one, yep.
Okay, I need a mover, seconder for the second one. But any, and Dave?
It is duly moved and seconded, whereas at their meeting held November 20th, the Recreation Community Advisory Committee discussed the improvements at the Joe Chartrand Park and have submitted their recommendation for council's consideration. Now therefore be it resolved that council directs staff to provide a report to the committee, including locations and financials to install a well and a septic at Joe Chartrand Park to understand if there are any shortfalls for future funding initiatives.
Thank you. Any questions? All those in favor? Thank you. All right, under 6.5, Emergency and Protection Services, you have before you a resolution to adopt a bylaw to amend in order to implement the administrative monetary penalty system. And so to add the penalties to the two new regulatory bylaws. So that would be the travel trailer bylaw and the short-term rental bylaw. So I need a mover and a seconder, Dave and Willie.
Duly moved and seconded, being bylaw 2024-04, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2022-32, a bylaw to implement an administrative monetary penalty system, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed.
Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. Under correspondence, tonight we have some. So the first one in your package is a request from Univ. Well, first they announced their annual International Women's Day that's going to be happening in March, and this year it's happening in Albin. And they would like a grant and subsidy application for the hall rental fee to be given gratuit as part of our donation to the activity. And the activity is really a lot of fun. There's 150 people that go, at least, maybe more. So now with the new Albin Center, it'll be even greater. So there's, I believe, a resolution to waive the rental fees for the activity. So I need a mover and a seconder, Renee, and seconded by Dave.
Duly moved and seconded, council approves the grant and subsidy application for a rebate from the hall rental fee at the Albin Community Center received from Univ Health Center for a hall rental fee rebate for their International Women's Day event being held on March 7th.
Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. The second piece is the French River Horticulture Society, and they've requested funding for the Good Food Market Program under the Better Beginnings, Better Futures. This was sent, we discussed it briefly at our December budget meeting, and that letter has been forwarded to budget. So we will be discussing it at it needs to go to budget because we're not making piecemeal decisions on budgetary items for 2024. So if everybody's okay with that, that will be dealt with in February. Everybody okay with that? Okay, thank you. Well, oh, there is a resolution? Okay, well, let's need a mover and a seconder. Renee and Dave.
Be it resolved that council agrees to consider the funding request from the French River Horticulture Society towards the Good Food Market during the 2024 budget deliberation.
All those in favor? Thank you. And the third one is La Société Alzheimer's Society. And what their request was a proclamation that in flag raising ceremony for the Alzheimer Awareness Month, which is in January. And Melanie contacted them and advised them we weren't meeting till tonight. But certainly I don't see a problem doing a proclamation for 2024. We did offer them to raise a flag here. We're still waiting for them to get back to us on that. But we need a resolution for the proclamation, right? Okay, so I need a mover and a seconder, Bob and Willie. Sure. Not the whole thing.
Not the whole thing?
No,
That's okay.
no. It's okay.
So the proclamation is included in the agenda package.
Yes,
It's quite lengthy. I will just read the ending.
Yeah.
Therefore, the Council of the Municipality of French River do hereby proclaim the month of January 2024 as National Alzheimer Awareness Month and urge all citizens in our community to become more aware and educated concerning the far-reaching effects of this disease.
thank you. And on that note too, I just want to say that both the Albin seniors and the Noelville seniors had presentations made by the Alzheimer's Society at their luncheons. And I have to say it was quite interesting. I learned a lot and it was absolutely excellent. All those in favor? Thank you. Under consent agenda, I need a mover and a seconder for the consent agenda. Moved by Willie, seconded by Dave. All those in favor? Thank you. We don't have any notice of motions, Madam Clerk? No. Announcement and inquiries. Let's see here. I will start with you. You're good for today? Bob?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll keep it short and sweet. Although December was extremely busy for all of us and There was a lot of great events that went by. I have to just name a few, the Christmas parade, and thank you to H&R Lumber, Amy, her staff for hosting it, all the volunteers, everybody that worked with it, all the great smiles that were given by children, everything that went on at the arena for the skates, the food that was served to kids upstairs. It was a great event, and I have to tip my hat to Amy once more, and I'm sure it's going to be echoed down here.
And
One more. Go ahead.
and we can't forget our Santa Claus either.
Thank you, Roger. And I have, it would be a great injustice if I didn't say thank you to Denis Prévost. All his volunteers, he had at least 30 volunteers that took care of the Christmas baskets. There was 109 families served. I figured out approximately close to $20,000 of food that was given out that day, plus vouchers. So it was a great amount. It was organized like clockwork, or minute work, maybe I should say. To his 30 volunteers, he had at least another 30 drivers delivering food, and it was a great success. 11:30 that morning, everything was done. So Dennis really deserves, when you see him, please say thank you to him. And Madam Mayor, that's it for me.
Thank you. And I certainly echo your comments, and thanks to Dennis, because it was an amazing piece of work to see that happen. So,
Last time I spoke to Dennis, he was up to something like 30 vouchers.
yeah,
So that's 109 plus the
30.
30. So the numbers are going up drastically.
Yeah.
And he did an excellent job.
Mhm. Lily,
I have nothing to add.
Mr. Dean.
I've been so busy shoveling snow that I haven't had time to think of anything else.
I mean, what do you say after that, right? Dave, are you busy shoveling snow too?
Yeah, I returned from Cuba with 2 feet of snow in my yard, so that was fun. But I'm glad to be back in Canada where there's no mosquitoes.
Yeah, for now. Renee?
Thank you for letting me stay or voting me in as deputy mayor. I will do my best again this year. As Bob said, great community volunteer base throughout the holidays, whether it be with the parade or everybody who donated food or delivered food, or I think we live in a pretty great community for that. A lot of people needed it, so that was great. There was a lot of Christmas concerts going on, the 3 schools. It was nice to see all the kids involved, and we even had the children from Minettville Public School came and sang at the seniors lunch downstairs at the church, which was nice. They did some Christmas caroling there. It was nice to have no snow up to a week ago. That was good. I traveled to the Sioux for health unit meetings. So there's a lot of talks there with the government asking us to amalgamate. It is a known fact that Nord Bay will be going with Renfrew. Yeah, and then Temiskaming and Timmins are joining that side. So we are potentially looking at merging with Sault Ste. Marie. So we did 2 days conference out there, and we need to come up with an answer by the end of February. So there's gonna be a lot of meetings between now and then. And they would like this to start implementing this pretty much right away in March, once a decision has been made. So that's what's going on with that. We have a meeting tomorrow, our normal Board of Health meeting tomorrow, so we have that one. Phenom also meets next weekend or this weekend at Ogra. So they have quite a few presentations on homelessness and other things for for places to live. Shelter and pricing also, because the rents are quite high in across the province, not just us. So they are looking at making presentations to different ministers for homelessness and for increasing pricing, and also for food prices increases. So those are presentations being made by Phenom. So we'll look forward to seeing that, and that's about it. I guess the skidoers will be happy. And I know that I've heard that that machine going out in the backyard, and yeah, the trails are getting groomed. So it's kind of that time of the year. So, but still be careful on those lakes. There's a lot of slush out there. That's it.
Thank you. My announcements were just echoing everybody else's here, and I saw my first snowmobile on the river the other day, and I thought, oh my God, this is way too early. So anyway, hopefully everybody will stay safe. Mark or Mel, do you have anything? No, it's up to you. You can go to the microphone, fallait au micro. Si vous avez des commentaires à faire, parce que le restant des gens, faut
just to thank the council for this significant progress on all kinds of matters. It's an education to be here today and listen to all the activities you're all engaged in. And it's enlightening, and it's a pleasure. Onward and forward. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and we certainly enjoy having live live people here, not just on Zoom.
I'd like to also echo Guy's statement, but on top of that, I need to say thank you to the staff and council for allowing us the opportunity to be heard. And on top of that, working with the staff and working with council has been very professional. We, as a group, were a little unruly to start with, but we also recognized that we were dealing with people that wanted to hear us. So we're very, very happy to say that the progress that's been made and everything that's going to happen going forward is beneficial to the community, to our municipality, and to the lake. So thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you. All right, let's move on. We don't have a closed session tonight. So now I need a resolution to adopt a confirmation bylaw moved by Dean and Renee.
Did that bylaw 2024-06 being a bylaw to confirm the proceeding of council at a meeting being held January 17th, 2024, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. And I need a resolution to adjourn. Nobody wants to go? Roger and Bob. All those in favor? Thank you. Miigwech.